The rain had fallen all night over the city of glass and noise. By morning, the streets glistened with silver reflections of streetlights and passing cars. Inside one of the tallest skyscrapers, Adrian Hale, a young billionaire known for his ruthless ambition, prepared to leave for an urgent trip to Singapore, a deal that could make or break his empire. His world was made of precision, schedules, meetings, and numbers. Everything was predictable. Everything was under control. Except for her. Lila Gomez, the quiet maid who had worked for him for 2 years, moved through his penthouse like a whisper. She was not the kind of woman who drew attention, but there was something about her eyes, soft brown with a sadness that never seemed to fade, that made Adrian pause more than once. He didn't know her story. He never asked. But that morning, when she saw him packing his leather suitcase and checking his passport, something inside her broke into panic, because Lila knew something he didn't. The night before, Lila had overheard a conversation in the service corridor of the building. 2 men, one of them a chauffeur who worked for Adrian's business rival, were speaking in hushed voices. She heard Adrian's name and one phrase that chilled her blood. "He won't make it past the airport. The explosion is set." Lila froze behind the wall, her hand clutching the mop handle. She didn't know if they saw her, but she didn't wait to find out. She ran back to the penthouse, trembling. All night she thought about what to do. If she told Adrian, would he believe her? She was just a maid. He barely looked at her beyond polite greetings. She had no proof, only fear and instinct. So when morning came, she made a desperate choice. She hid his passport. "Lila," Adrian's deep voice echoed through the apartment. "Have you seen my passport?" It was right here. Lila looked up from the kitchen counter, heart pounding. "No, sir. Maybe you put it somewhere else." "I don't misplace things," he said sharply, frustration tightening his jaw. "I have a flight in 2 hours." He turned the penthouse upside down, checking drawers, pockets, briefcase. Lila watched him silently, guilt burning inside her. She wanted to tell him everything, but fear sealed her lips. After half an hour, Adrian sighed heavily. "Fine. I'll have to reschedule. This is ridiculous." He pulled out his phone and started making calls, his voice clipped and cold. Lila slipped away to the laundry room, where the small blue booklet lay hidden behind the towels. She pressed a trembling hand to her chest. "I'm sorry, sir," she whispered. "I'm only trying to save you." By noon, the news hit every channel. A private jet explosion at the city airport. No survivors. Lila dropped the plate she was washing. Her hands went cold as she listened. The flight number, the destination, everything matched Adrian's cancelled trip. Her knees went weak. She sat on the floor, tears streaming down her face. She had done the right thing. He was alive because of her. When Adrian came out of his office later, still angry but calm, she stood before him. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Sir, I have something to tell you." He frowned. "What is it?" She led him to the laundry room, took out the passport and handed it to him. "I took it," she confessed. His brows furrowed. "You... what? Why would you do that?" "Because they were going to kill you," she burst out, her voice breaking. "I overheard them last night. They said there would be an explosion at the airport. I didn't know how to warn you, so I hid your passport." Adrian stared at her, speechless. Then he turned on the TV, just in time to see the footage again, the burning wreckage of the jet, the black smoke rising into the sky. His name had been on the passenger list. For a long time he said nothing. Then, slowly, he sat down, running a hand through his hair. "You saved my life," he murmured, "and I almost shouted at you for it." Lila shook her head, tears still falling. "I thought you'd be angry." "I should be," he said quietly. "But all I feel is shocked and grateful." He looked up at her then, really looked at her, the woman who had dusted his shelves, cleaned his floors, and now, without any reason, had risked her job to save him. Something inside Adrian shifted. The police were called. Adrian's security team began digging into the case. Within days, they discovered that the jet explosion was indeed an assassination attempt, planted by a rival who wanted to take over one of Adrian's companies. Lila became a key witness. She was questioned, protected, and eventually cleared of all suspicion. But through it all, Adrian couldn't stay away from her. He found reasons to see her, offering her tea when she worked, asking about her family, her dreams. Lila was shy at first, keeping her answers short. She had grown up poor, taking care of her younger sister after their parents died. She had taken the maid job because it was steady, safe, predictable. Until the night she overheard that conversation. Adrian listened to her story with quiet attention. For the first time, he saw the world beyond his wealth, the struggle, the small kindnesses that kept people like her going. And for the first time, he wished he could be someone else, someone who deserved her kindness. One evening, a week after the explosion, Lila found Adrian standing on the balcony, staring at the city lights. "You shouldn't be out here alone," she said softly. "It's still not completely safe." He turned, a faint smile touching his lips. "I have you to protect me, don't I?" She blushed. "I'm not a bodyguard, sir." "No," he said, taking a slow step toward her. "You're something much braver." Her breath caught. The wind tugged at her hair, and for a moment the world felt still. Adrian reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "I keep thinking about that night. If you hadn't acted, I wouldn't be here. You didn't just save my life, Lila. You changed it." She looked up at him, eyes wide. "Sir." "Adrian," he corrected softly. "When we're alone, call me Adrian." The distance between them disappeared. His hand brushed against hers, and it felt like electricity. But before the moment could deepen, she stepped back. "This isn't right." "I'm your maid, and you're also the reason I'm alive," he said. "That means something." She turned away, her heart in chaos. She didn't want to be another woman in a billionaire's story. She wanted something real, but his gaze, his words, his kindness, it was getting harder to resist. A few days later, new information came from the investigation. Someone inside Adrian's own company had leaked his travel plans. That night, Lila found him pacing the living room, fury in his eyes. "It was my assistant," he said bitterly. "Someone I trusted for years." "He sold my schedule for money." Lila placed a hand on his arm. "I'm sorry, Adrian." He looked at her, his anger melting into exhaustion. "Every time I think I can trust someone, they betray me." "Not everyone," she said softly. Their eyes met, and in that silence, he realized she was the only person who had ever put him before herself. He cupped her face gently. "I don't know how to thank you, Lila." "You already did," she whispered. "You believed me." Days turned into weeks. The danger passed, but the connection between them only grew stronger. One night after dinner, Adrian asked her to sit with him. The city lights shimmered below like stars scattered across the earth. "I don't know how to say this," he began, "but I don't want you to keep calling me sir anymore. I don't want to see you as my maid. I want to see you as—" He hesitated, his voice low. "As the woman who owns my heart." Lila froze. "Adrian, I know it's complicated. I know people will talk. But I don't care. You risked everything for me. You saw the man I could be, not just the one I pretended to be." Tears filled her eyes. "I never wanted anything from you." "I know," he said. "That's why I want to give you everything." When he leaned closer, she didn't move away this time. Their lips met, soft, hesitant at first, then deep and full of everything they'd been holding back. It was the kiss of two people who had survived something dark and found light in each other. Weeks later, the investigation closed, and Adrian's rival was arrested. The media called it the billionaire's narrow escape. But to Adrian, it wasn't just luck. It was fate. Fate wearing an apron and a shy smile. He offered Lila a new position, not as a maid but as his personal assistant. At first, she refused, afraid of gossip and scandal. But Adrian's persistence and sincerity slowly melted her fears. They began traveling together, for business, for healing, for love. He showed her the world she had only seen in dreams. She reminded him of the world he had forgotten, the simple joys, the small acts of kindness, the beauty in quiet moments. 1 year later, on a warm evening in Paris, Adrian took her to a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Seine. The lights of the city sparkled like memories. He took her hand, eyes full of emotion. "Lila," he said softly, "you once kept my passport to save my life. Now I want to give you mine, because you are my home." Tears filled her eyes as he knelt before her, holding a small velvet box. "Will you marry me?" She couldn't speak. She could only nod as tears fell and he slipped the ring onto her finger. The crowd around them clapped. Somewhere in the distance, fireworks bloomed above the river. Adrian pulled her close and whispered against her ear, "You saved me from death, but more than that, you taught me how to live." And when he kissed her again, the city lights danced around them like stars celebrating their love.